Good morning, Connie Hubbard here again. The third video in my Bibliodrama series. I would like to share with you today my very first bibliodramatic journaling. When I first learned about it, I took my Bible and my journal and sat down and just started writing. And as I thought about what to write or who I wanted to give voice to, what came to me was a picture of an old olive tree that stood in a garden of olives. And when I started writing, I had no idea. I had no earthly idea what would come out of this. I just let my pen flow over the paper. And as I was writing, I was so impacted by this. I felt the emotions. I felt a connection so deep, it's totally beyond words. And rather than talking much about it, I will just read to you what I had written in my journal and share this with you. Listen to the story this old olive tree has to tell you. I am old. I have been here a long, long time. I have seen the seasons come and go. I have seen people come and go, sometimes one, sometimes groups of people. There are always those who come to seek the solitude of this garden and find peace under the shadow of my branches. I thought I had seen and heard all that life on this earth had to offer. Lately, however, a little band of men had been coming up here to spend time away together. Their leader, a man named Jesus, was different from any man who had ever come into this garden. He often came alone to pray. I had never heard anyone pray like him. When he spoke, something deep within me trembled. He touched a place in the core of my being that had never been touched before. I was shaken to my very roots and felt connected to that man in a way that made me shiver. It's almost as if those roots had their beginning in him. I felt a life and light energy pouring forth from him into me. I somehow felt that I owed my very existence to this man. I felt a bond with him that I had never felt with any other human being. He was more than a man. I somehow knew that my life and my strength came from him. I knew that he was my creator. I wondered why other men treated him like a mere mortal and did not seem to feel or see the light streaming out of him. I had given shade and the fruit of my olives to man for years, but never felt I had ever received anything back from them. But this man knew me in the deepest sense of the word. He had conceived me. I was born of him, created by him. Seeing him walk as a man, seeking refuge under the shadow of my branches, left me trembling with awe and honor. I felt the holiness of his presence, and with every fiber of my being, I sought to be what this wonderful creature and creator needed me to be. I longed to embrace him, to comfort him in that dark night when his soul was poured out to death. I could not understand the events of those hours. I only knew I was in the presence of holiness himself. And even though it seemed the earth was spinning out of control, I knew in a deeper part of my being that he still upheld all things by the word of his power. Because of that, I could continue to stand firm and unmovable. I sought to lend him my strength that night. I felt him near, his hands touching the bark of my strong trunk. We stood together as lovers stood in an embrace. I gave him what I could, my unmovable strength, the very strength he had given me my strong roots, my solid trunk, my fruit-laden branches, which could reach all around me, my age, my having stood for so many years in the same place. All of this I gave back to him. I felt the comfort he drew from being under the shadow of my branches, and I gave myself to him the best I could. I felt that I fulfilled my very existence that moment. I had given him all I had to give. I was forever his. No matter how much longer I would be here, nothing would ever compare to this moment in time when I was allowed to witness heaven bending down and kissing the earth. Now, writing this impacted me so much. I felt it for weeks and months afterwards. I felt this connection, this power, this life that came out of the Word of God simply by imagining what this tree would say. Could he share his experience? So I don't want to say too much more about it today. I just want to say we learn by doing. So think about what person or object you would like to give voice to and practice it. You don't even have to share it with anyone. You just do it. But you will be surprised. I challenge you. Just take a pen and paper and think about it. Go with that first impression, that first nudge, that first person or object that comes to you, and start writing. See what happens. Just see what happens. With this, I leave you today, and God bless you. Have a great day.